Welcome to the Jiu Jitsu Oracle's CJI Under 80 prediction show. So we're going to go through the bracket. We're going to say who we think is going to win all the first round matches. And then we're going to keep it going all the way up to picking who we think will be the champion. Who are we? I'm Ross. I'm joined as always by Calum. This is the Jiu Jitsu Oracle. Like and subscribe. Leave your comments as we go along. First match. Tye Ruotolo, who is the 1 seed in CJI, against Jason Nolf.
I think more than likely Tye takes this. Obviously, we usually see Tye standing wrestling. I think we could see that in this match. I think it's unlikely he's going to take Jason Nolf down, but I could very well see him snatching a doors or maybe entering the legs from standing and taking Jason Nolf out.
The way this is going to go, I'm going to ask the question of Calum, who he thinks is going to win. Calum's going to pick a winner. I might disagree with Calum and offer some suggestions as to why, but ultimately it'll be Calum's choice who progresses in the bracket so we can keep this going. So Tye Ruotolo favoured to win his first round match. He will play the winner of Roberto Jimenez against Levi Jones-Leary in the second round. Calum, who have you got?
Got Roberto in that. I think Roberto's well versed enough in the bolo game to potentially keep him safe. He's bigger, more physical, and more well-rounded.
Okay, into the bottom half of the draw, if you can see the bracket, we have Hulk against Kenta.
Yeah, definitely going to go with Hulk on this, coming from a bigger weight class. I think he's got a lot of the same skills as Kenta, but potentially does them better with more physicality and a lot more experience in these types of competitions.
And then Andy Varela against your boy, Jozef Chen.
Yeah, we've seen this match recently. Jozef Chen came out in that match, and I think it'll be the same result in this.
Okay. Moving over to the right-hand side of the bracket. Second seed in CJI, Kade Ruotolo. First round matchup against Matheus Diniz.
Yeah, with the experience of Matheus and his size, I think it could be a tough match for Kade, but Kade's done a lot more recently and showing a lot more, so I'm going to have to go with Kade coming out in that match.
I agree, but I said it in our previous show when we saw the brackets come out. I think for a first round match, for a second seed, this is a really challenging match for Kade. First match of the event for him, and he's up against a real seasoned player who is very, very good under this kind of submission grappling rule set. So I agree. I think Kade will go through. But if there was a shock, it wouldn't. Well, if there was a win for Matheus, it wouldn't be a shock to me. It would be an absolute shock. Next, we have Canuto against Langaker.
So we've seen this match fairly recently in the last couple of years on one. Tommy came out in that match, and then on top of that, he's been a lot more actively recently in the no-gi scene. So I'll go with Tommy coming out on top in that match again.
Okay, and then we have Majid against Owen O'Flanagan.
I'm going to go with Owen in this, coming from a bigger weight class, did a lot better in the last ADCC Worlds than Majid. I think I can quite easily see him getting to Majid's back or getting into the legs and submitting Majid.
Okay. And then probably the pick of the first round matchups, Andrew Tackett against 3 seed Nicky Ryan.
Yeah, this is definitely on paper the most competitive match of the first round. It's quite tough to pick in this one. I think the shorter rounds favour Nicky. I think he's probably got a technical advantage. However, what we've seen of them in competition definitely has to go with Andrew on this. I think he's a lot better physically. I think he can pull the trigger a lot better on the feet. Good passing, and if Nicky decides to pull guard, he just needs to stay safe of the leg locks. I think if Nicky does get into his legs or get to some sort of submission position, he can definitely submit Andrew, but I think with the physicality and energetic style of Andrew, can see Nicky potentially breaking in that match. So I'm going to go with Andrew Tackett in that match.
And just to show the difference in opinion between us and the seeds for CJI, which weren't picked by CJI, they were picked by the fans in a fan vote. Where did we have Andrew and Nicky respectively in our tier list?
Yes, we had Nicky in B tier and Andrew in A tier.
And B tier is what category?
Dark horse.
And A tier is
likely to go far and good chance of winning.
So we think Andrew's likely to go far and got a good chance to win. How will he fare in his second round match? Keep watching. We'll get to that in a minute. But first up, we'll go back to the left-hand side of the bracket and the top quarter. So we've now got Tye against Roberto.
Yeah, so been a while again since these guys have matched up. I think Roberto has won their matches in the past. I think Roberto was in his early 20s, however, while Tye was still a teenager and still growing, wasn't really like a fully grown adult athlete yet. Kade obviously got that win back for them at the last ADCC. Roberto potentially will be a bit bigger than Tye, but I think Tye's shown a lot more recently and been a lot more consistent in his performances, so I think Tye's going to avenge those earlier losses and beat Roberto in that match.
Okay.
Definitely think Roberto can win that, though.
Against Chen.
Yeah, so I've seen more of Chen recently in the no-gi scene. I think there's going to be a big size and physicality discrepancy. I remember Jozef saying that he's only really started lifting weights, and if you can't tell by looking at him, I'm sure Hulk has been lifting weights for quite a while. Coming down from a bigger weight class, he's competed at under 99 in the past and medalled. He's also medalled at under 88 at ADCC, whereas Jozef has just qualified for ADCC and then jumped over to CGI this time around. So Jozef's got a really good skill set. I think if he gets on top of Hulk, he could pass his guard. Jozef surprised me in the past with his wrestling, taking down Elijah Dorsey very cleanly, but definitely have to go with Hulk on this. Two-time ADCC medalist, been in the game for a long time, super experienced, super physical, very good on the feet, very good passing. I see him probably taking down Jozef Chen or denying his takedown and getting on top, and then I see him completely shutting Jozef down on top, potentially tiring him out and potentially passing his guard as well.
Okay, let's do the other side of the draw before we come back to that Tye v Hulk semi-final. So we have Kade against Tommy Langacker.
Seen this twice already on one. Got less competitive the second time around. Kade, like, not even in his prime yet physically, more maturing into his prime, and then Tommy in his prime right now. So definitely going to have to go with Kade on this one.
And then Owen against Andrew.
This is going to be interesting to watch if it happens, just because Andrew's brother William, had a match against Owen on Grapple Fest and wasn't overly competitive, to be honest. I was thinking I was favouring William going into that match, but I thought it was going to be a bit more competitive. But William, with his pressure passing, side to side passing, just kind of dismantled Owen's guard. And Andrew's got quite a similar style, very energetic, side to side passing, hard to get a hold of. If Owen gets in on a deep leg lock with a nice connection to Andrew's hip, I could definitely see him submitting Andrew, but I just think with that similarity in style and Owen having to cut all this weight, I would favour Andrew Tackett coming out of that match.
Okay, so that will give us a Kade v Andrew semi-final, which we will go on to discuss. But first, back over to the left-hand side of the draw. Tye against Hulk.
This is one of the toughest matches to decide, to be honest. So last ADCC, there was 3 Atos guys in the under 88. There was Tye, there was Hulk, and there was Josh Hinger. Tye and Josh Hinger faced first round, and Josh Hinger was able to get the upset and beat Tye, and then Hinger lost to Hulk in that second round match. So going off of that, you'd favour Hulk. Going off of the experience and physicality and everything, you'd favour Hulk. It's super close, and I could definitely see Hulk winning. It wouldn't surprise me at all to see him shut Tye down, but I think with what Tye's done recently, and given the fact that Lucas is going to have to cut down for this, and the physicality is going to be a bit more even because of that, I'm going to go with Tye, but it really wouldn't surprise me going the other way.
I think we've seen Tye do well against bigger grapplers.
Yeah. Yeah, and like when we were talking in our tier list video for under 80 about who we had over each other, either Kade or Tye, it was like the same sort of situation with the Sataya brothers, where like Adam Sataya had to go up in weight to not face his brother and had a slightly less accomplishments on his record, but same situation here, kind of like Tye's had to go up in a lot of divisions to not face his brother, and on paper his accomplishments are maybe a little bit less, but he's still done very well against bigger guys, you know, so he's definitely used to facing those kind of guys, and like I say, the physicality will be a bit more even that Hulk has to make this under 80.
With the last ADCC, he beat Pedro Mourinho and Pena. I mean, he lost a very close one to Merigali.
Yeah.
So
yeah, and then also he smoked Isaac Michel as well, who's like a really good under 88 kilo guy also.
Yeah. So who are you going for? Just to make it different.
Gonna probably like 55 to 45% gonna go with Tye.
Okay, so you got Tye coming through the left-hand side of the bracket, and then the other semi-final we're predicting is Kade Ruotolo against Andrew Tackett.
Yeah, very excited to see this one. So again, to talk about, they're not the same grappler. They've got like slightly different styles, but do a lot of the things the same. Comparing Andrew and William, we saw William versus Kade at the trials before the last ADCC. Was a super scrappy back and forth match. Kade came out on top of that. This again is a tough one to decide, but I just think the Ruotolos have kind of shown themselves to be a bit cut above the rest in that like under 77 kilo division, and until I see someone beat them or do something worthy enough for me to think they can beat them, I'm still gonna kind of hold them higher than everyone else. So I'll go with Kade beating Andrew in that match, although like I wouldn't be surprised to see Andrew do well and win that match, but I don't think he's beaten anyone near the level of Kade to justify me picking him over Kade.
So I think two things. One, that's the way like I would generally play a prediction game, is like you back the guy who's winning. You don't try and be outlandish. It's not like totally outlandish to pick Andrew, but you often get people when we're chatting about UFC or whatever event, and they're like they're deliberately picking the guy who's like less likely to win, just so then they're right. They seem like a genius. So like I tend to go towards picking like the form player, the guy you've seen win a lot recently. So I can totally get the Kade argument from that point of view. What I will say is like before we hit record, I did say to Calum the way we would do it, and like his prediction would be the one that we put forward, but I kind of said we will probably have some disagreements along the way, and I wouldn't be surprised if it was a Hulk against Andrew final, for example, and then we didn't get a Ruotolo's match. But the way on you go.
Sorry, on you go. You finish.
Well, no, I'm just going to say, like, the way you've called it is we're going to get Tye against Kade in the final, which is eminently possible. Like, I could definitely see that happening. But I just said, like, the way I looked at the bracket beforehand is, like, I wouldn't be shocked if a lot of people are predicting Kade against Tye, and then we end up seeing Hulk against Andrew. Although, like, I totally get the justification for Kade against Tye.
Yeah, and, like, we're just going off of each match individually, but when you look at it as a whole, it's not unreasonable to say that, like, you don't think that, like, you think the odds of there being a Ruotolo final are unlikely, and that works when you look at betting odds as well. Like, I don't know exactly what the betting odds are for this, but say Kade and Tye were the favourites, it's not like they would both be 2-1 favourites. They'd probably more likely be both like 4-1 or 5-1 favourites. So it's still unlikely off those betting odds that they both will be in the final, but just taking each match by itself, that is what we're coming to the conclusion of.
Yep. So then we have one last match to decide.
Yeah, so again, we kind of spoke about this with the two of them, one going up in weight class and not have to face the other one. So based off accomplishments, you might go with Kade, but they had a very close match. Kade was winning the match at Brown Belt Gi Worlds, and then Tye managed to pull out an armbar. I think you'd maybe mentioned before that like Tye has won the majority of matches that they faced off against each other in. So, I mean, they're twin brothers, very similar style, very similar weight. So it is really a toss-up, to be honest. But maybe you have to go. It's so difficult, to be honest. Maybe I have to go with Tye just because, like, the pass that they've had in the matches they've faced each other, Tye's came out on top more often than not, but it is a complete toss-up, to be honest. Probably 50-50 odds.
Okay, well, so I'm leaning Kade.
Okay.
Because what we've seen recently, obviously beat Mika to win ADCC 22. Also, like, beat Lachlan, Roberto, PJ, very, very good Nogi grapplers. Then 1FC, we've seen him beat Tommy twice. We've seen him beat Francisco Lowe, I think.
Yeah.
So, like,
Mateus Gabriel as well.
Mateus Gabriel, yeah. So, like, of late, I think, like, his resume, his strength of schedule looks stronger. And their stacks up when he plays against his brother. Remains to be seen, but like I think Kade has like improved since that 22 victory in the ADCC.
Yeah, I think that's fair if like you're going off of what he's done recently, and that's probably the smartest thing to do. I'm just kind of very much taking into consideration the factor that Tye's had to face a lot bigger people, and I think actually before ADCC, Tye was like the slightly looked upon better of the two. And obviously Tye's had to fight a lot of bigger guys since then, so I'm very excited to see Tye face a lot of people his own weight, so maybe that's kind of swaying me towards Tye, but I do think it is a complete toss-up, so I'm not surprised that we're both going in different ones for this.
Okay, but you're going Tye.
I'll go Tye.
And I did say like the Oracle's prediction will be what Calum says, so there you have it. But you let us know what you think, guys. Get into the comments. Predict all the matches if you want, or if you just want to give us a ultimate champion, then let us know what you think. But as it stands, Calum, the Oracle, thinks that Tye Ruotolo is going to win under 80 at the Craig Jones Invitational.